I wonder who the best coach team in the NFL is. And then I look up at Minnesota and I'm like, well, that looks like the one. We'll talk about that today here on Locked On NFL.
The barbershop is open and Tony Wiggins has a chair for you. He's ready with some real NFL talk. The local experts of Locked On bring their expertise, and Wiggy is ready with his clippers and shears. Sit down and enjoy. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
You got that right. It is your team every day here on Locked On NFL. We thank you for making us your first listen. Where here on Locked On NFL, what we do is we use the help of local experts like the one I have today, David Harrison from Locked On Commanders. And what we do is we tell you about the NFL, man, and like you can't get it anywhere else. And we do it twice a day. Tyler Rowland in the morning and me here in the barbershop in the afternoon. And it's wherever you get your podcast, whether you watch them or listen to them, make sure you tap into Locked On NFL each and every day. Today's show is sponsored by FanDuel. You can start and end the season. You can start the playoff part of the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with a $250 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Shout out to the everydayers that join us every day here on Locked On NFL and Locked On Jaguars and Locked On Commanders, where my man David Harrison is the expert. Dave, what's going on with you, man? And welcome. Happy New Year to you and your family.
Yeah, man. Yeah, Happy New Year to you and your family as well, man. Looking forward to an exciting final week of the regular season, and then don't mean to rub it in, but looking forward to some playoff football after that.
There you go. There you go. You ain't rubbing it in on me, man. You know, I cover the Jags, but I got a little bit of extra love for the Commanders, and I'm glad that is happening for the DMV. Here's what we're going to talk about: quarterback development 101. I have a clip from Kurt Warner, Hall of Famer Kurt Warner, from early in the year when he was talking to Kyle Krabs about quarterbacks. And I want to turn that into a segment where we talk about how these quarterbacks this year, this class that wasn't considered a great class, is turned out to be a really good class. And that is because the coaches are putting those guys in the best possible situation to be good. And I think it's a lesson. It's a lesson for everybody. So we're going to call it Quarterback Development 101 on full display. In the middle, we're going to talk about the MVP race in a vacuum. And a lot of talk about Josh Allen and what he deserves. Let Joe Marino tell you about that. That is not even something that's fresh. It happened like 3 weeks ago when Joe made this clip, so I'm going to bring that up too. But best coach team in the NFL, that's where we're going to start. And we're going to kick that off right now. I can't help but look at Minnesota. I look at Kevin O'Connell, and it was something about that video the other day with Sam Darnold when they hosted the players hoisted him up, and he had done his post game with the TV people and came in, and I don't know if you guys saw it, but they cheered him on, and there was a visual of Kevin O'Connell just standing back, just like in amazement and looking at that. I just think with him on offense and Brian Flores on defense, I believe they are the best coached team in the National Football League.
Now, Wig, you already know.
Go. I saw you first of all, you delayed. And whenever you delay, I said, okay, he's about to school me on something. I saw you, dog. So, go ahead, man. What?
Yeah, listen, it's not a schooling thing, right? It's not a schooling thing, but what it is just context matters. And I don't want to take anything away from KOC because I think KOC is a great coach, absolutely deserves to be in the running for coach of the year.
Yes, sir.
But I don't know how, when you look at what the Minnesota Vikings did this year, right?
Yeah.
They come off of a 7-win season where everybody looks at this team and says, man, if Kirk Cousins doesn't get injured, they're so much better, which means if they have average or better quarterback play, they're a playoff team. That's all they're missing. Average or better quarterback play. That's all they're missing. They come into the offseason. Look, they turn over 40% of the roster. That's a lot of the roster. It may not sound like a lot, but that is a lot of an NFL roster to turn over. They bring in Sam Darnold. And here's what I'll say about the context of Sam Darnold. This is not New York Jets Sam Darnold. Like, this is Sam Darnold who left the Jets, went to the Carolina Panthers, went through all that mess, went to the San Francisco 49ers, which, who are the San Francisco 49ers? They're the same team that almost made it to the Super Bowl playing with 3 different quarterbacks, right? That's the San Francisco 49ers that Sam Darnold came from to Minnesota. So while I'm a big fan of Kevin O'Connell, and I don't want to take away his shine, let's understand, this isn't Sam Darnold coming from a boo-boo Jets franchise to the Minnesota Vikings. Sam has been through some things. He's lost the pressure. He's lost the first round glitter. And while publicly, like a lot of people will say, that's not a good thing, it actually is a good thing. To take pressure off of a quarterback is actually a very, very good thing to do. He goes to an organization that has a proven track record of making better quarterbacks out of not so talented quarterbacks like Mr. Irrelevant Brock Purdy himself. And then he brings that experience and talent to Minnesota. So while KOC deserves a lot of credit, let's not pretend that KOC plucked Sam Darnold from the clutches of seeing ghosts in New York City to Minnesota and turned him into this. No, like there's been a lot of other steps on the way here. The other thing I'll say about this, again, 7-win team last year. This year they're a 14-win team. That's a 7-game improvement. You want to know what other team made a 7-win improvement this year, Wig? The Washington.
I knew it was coming. There it is, baby. There it is. I knew it was
a homer. All that stuff. He's too close to it. Listen to me. When you're a 7-win team and you make a 7-game improvement, that is not that's a great thing. Don't get me wrong. That's a great thing. But it's not as impressive as being a 4-win team making a 7-win improvement to get 11 wins. That is so much more impressive. Now let's add to it this. Rookie quarterback, new offensive coordinator. So nobody, not a Terry McLaurin, not a Brian Robinson Jr., nobody knew that scheme coming into the season.
Yeah.
You have Dan Quinn, who was not the first, second, third, or fourth option for the media coming into this coaching search for the Washington Commanders. You got a whole new coaching staff, and you have north of 60% roster turnover from last year to this year. And yes, some of those players are Dallas Cowboys. There's about 3 players on the Dallas Cowboys defense from last year that are on this Washington Commanders defense. So let's not make that bigger than it has to be. But Wig, what I'm going to say is that's my coach of the year. And yes, I covered Dan Quinn, but I think that when you put this contextually, and let's add in the fact, who are the NFC North play this year? The AFC South, the NFC West. Yes, they play each other. So we're going to say, well, the Minnesota Vikings have a win over a 10-plus win, Green Bay Packers team or whatever it is. Actually, they don't even have a win against the Green. Or yeah, they do have a win against the Green Bay Packers team. Okay, that's fine. But the NFC North is inflated this year because they're all playing the AFC South and the NFC West.
Yes, sir.
Who are the Washington Commanders playing to get their 11 wins? The AFC North and the NFC South. The NFC South, one of those two. So let's take that away, but let's take those other two away. The Minnesota Vikings' most quality win outside their division this year, the Los Angeles Rams, who are going to, or no, they didn't beat the San Francisco 49ers, sorry. And in week 2, that win over the 49ers seemed like a real big deal. But in week 17, Wig, that week 2 win over the 49ers, not that impressive. The Washington Commanders' most quality win outside the division, the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, Cincinnati Bengals have not been everything we thought they would be this year either, but Cincinnati Bengals are on the cusp of making the playoffs. San Francisco 49ers are on the cusp of a franchise blow-up. So I'm just saying, contextually speaking, if KOC is here for you, Dan Quinn's got to be here or here. It's got to be a neck-and-neck race coming down in the regular season.
And he is. He is. Listen to Peter Bukowski. He's talking here to Luke Braun. He's talking about coaching and how this Minnesota team is different. I'll come back. I'm going to tell you exactly why I say they're the best coach team. I did not say that KOC was better than Dan Quinn. Now, check this out.
If you're a Packers fan wanting for me to come on here and say, look, I think this team is fake and fraudulent and all those things that I said in 2022 about that team, it would just be intellectually dishonest. Like, I don't think that about this team. It's weird to say with Aaron Jones and Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson and Kevin O'Connell, who I think is a hell of a coach, that I think the offense is the part of this team that I think is the place where the Packers can create more advantages because it has been at times inconsistent. I think pass protection is part of that. It's been a team that has needed those fourth quarter moments. And, look, you can do that and win a game and it counts, right? So for the Packers, you have to prevent those moments. I am more interested in seeing what the Packers are able to do defensively since week 11. Like I said, this is the second defense by DVOA in the league. Over the last 6 games, Packers defense has been one of the best defenses in the league. And so I think that's the part of this game where if the Packers are going to win, it's going to have to be on defense.
Yeah, so there you go. So this all worked out organically the way it was supposed to be, because I believe Brian Flores is the difference, and Peter just hit on it. And for me, Minnesota attacks you offensively, but they also attack you defensively, and that's the thing that I believe they have 2 head coaches. They have one on defense and one on offense, and that to me is why this works. I will tell you this: I'm a little bit blinded by my own opinion of Minnesota coming into the year. I thought Minnesota just like a lot of people think about Buffalo, and we'll get into that in the MVP talk in the next segment. I just thought they were going to be bad because I thought they were rebuilding. You let go of the Daniel Hunter, you get rid of all of these assets, all of these big-time players, and I'm like, they can't really just pick up where they left off. They got better. And that's the part of this that makes me believe that they're coaches. My expectations for the Vikings were so low.
Here's the last thing I'm going to say about this conversation. And I know I'm just spending this entire time just talking down
Nah,
KOC.
go. You do your thing, baby. You do your thing.
Here's why the Washington Commanders are the best coach team in the National Football League.
Yes,
against the 5th worst scoring defense in the league. The Jacksonville Jaguars, I'm sorry, Wig. The Jacksonville Jaguars giving up the 5th most points in the league this season.
Yeah.
In their game, the Minnesota Vikings played against that 5th worst scoring defense in the National Football League. The Minnesota Vikings turned over the ball 3 times and scored 12 points. Okay, that seems kind of reasonable, right? Yeah. Now, on the flip side of this thing, the Philadelphia Eagles are the 3rd best scoring defense in the National Football League. And in a game where the Washington Commanders turned the ball over 5 times against the 3rd best scoring defense in the league, they put up 36 points.
Look at that. Look at that. My man coming in.
And I know it's weird to point to a 5 turnover game and say this is why this is the best coach team in the NFL. But there is not a team in this league this year that I would look to and say that teams can score 36 points against the third top scoring defense in the NFL after turning the ball over 5 times. Not a single one.
I'll tell you what, if I ever run for office, I want you to be my press secretary because you will nail it, man, and you will make sure.
I will tell you why that scandal will make him a better president.
That's right, man. Look, we're going to talk about the MVP race too because that's been a hot topic. We'll get to that in just a second here. Is Josh Allen the MVP, or are we doing the same thing for him that I'm doing for the Minnesota Vikings just because of low expectations? We'll talk about that in just a second here on Locked On NFL. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by PrizePicks. That's right. PrizePicks is the truth, man. It's playoff time, and if you're like me, you need some of that money because you've been spending all that money on Christmas and all of these gifts, and PrizePicks can help you out with it. With PrizePicks, you simply pick more or less on player stats like total passing yards or rushing touchdowns or all of that stuff, and you have a shot to win up to 1,000 times your money. You can make your picks in less than 60 seconds, and whether you're looking for a flex player or just trying to boost your payout or you want to cash out quickly, PrizePicks has you covered. And over 10 million members and billions of winnings are being dished out, and it's clear that people are loving this platform. Here's a special offer for Locked On NFL listeners. Download the app and use Locked On NFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's PrizePicks. I want you to run your game, man, but you need to download the app today and use the code Locked On NFL to get those $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right. PrizePicks is the best daily fantasy sports site on the planet, and you need to join it. Make sure you download the app and use the code Locked On NFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. Run your game. All right, moving along here on Locked On NFL with my man David Harrison, your local expert who covers the Washington Commanders and is the host of one of our squad shows here on the Locked On Podcast Network. The MVP race. We talked about Josh Allen. We just talked about me loving all up on Minnesota, and you made me cry, man. You made me pull out my tissue and start wiping my eyes here because you made me get sentimental about the team that I grew up loving in Washington, and you proved me right. So let me see if my bias is going to hold up. Buffalo. I don't believe Josh Allen is the MVP. I think it's Lamar Jackson. And part of that is this. The dude has won 2 in the past, right? And he ain't never played this good. And a lot of people sitting there saying, well, he's got Derrick Henry. Well, guess what? He won 2 without Derrick Henry when Derrick Henry was in Tennessee. So that ain't the reason like he should be the MVP. Josh Allen has been great. Joe Burrow has been great. I just think Lamar Jackson has been like better than he's ever been. And the statistics actually show this. And for that reason, I'm looking at it, and I've seen this dude in all of these big games on TV. Either he's winning them, or if he's not winning them, he's playing lights out, and it's somebody else's fault that they lose. So I'm just going with Lamar Jackson, but I know that there are a lot of Joe Burrow and a lot of people that want Josh Allen to get this award.
Now, listen, I will tell you this right now. Joe Burrow.
Yeah, man.
I mean, as far as quarterbacks are concerned, Joe Burrow might be the most valuable quarterback in this league.
For sure.
Because without Joe Burrow this year, the Cincinnati Bengals are dead in the water. Yeah. And the fact the Cincinnati Bengals even have a chance of making the playoffs this weekend is incredible. And they don't do that without Joe Burrow. So this is kind of one of those situations where not only is the MVP award a quarterback award, it's also a winning quarterback award. You know what I mean? So when quarterbacks don't win, they don't get the award. I go back to actually Deshaun Watson, and I know, but Deshaun Watson's last full season playing for the Houston Texans before all that other crap went down. If you look at Deshaun Watson's numbers and Deshaun Watson's season, that's an MVP season. That is an MVP season. But the Houston Texans won like 2 games. That's the problem. Is the Houston Texans didn't win. You know what I mean? But that's kind of the situation that Joe Burrow's in. So Joe Burrow's not going to get it, but I'm glad that you brought him up because he deserves his shine. Josh Allen, if he gets it, it's going to be based on, honestly, if we really want to be real about this, Sean McDermott deserves some Coach of the Year conversation.
He does, sir.
The Buffalo Bills.
Yep.
Yeah, the Buffalo Bills are a team that everybody said is going to take a step back. Buffalo Bills fans were mad, saying, bro, this window has been open and y'all are not making this team better. You're making this team worse. You're closing the window on your own. And now here they are, competing at least towards the end of the season for the number 1 seed in the AFC. I know they didn't get it, but they were competing, right?
Yep.
Lamar Jackson is not going to get it. Here's why Lamar Jackson's not going to get it. Because you're right, Wig. Lamar Jackson is playing maybe the best ball he has ever played in his NFL career. The problem with that is he's playing his best ball because Derrick Henry is making him better. Because teams have to stay in the middle of the field more. They've got to crowd the box more because of Derrick Henry's presence, which is giving Lamar more opportunities to make plays. Lamar Jackson is not making Derrick Henry better. That's why I think Lamar Jackson is not going to win this at the NFL MVP, because I think too many people out there see that the presence of Derrick Henry is helping Lamar Jackson have the season he's having, whereas Lamar Jackson is not helping Derrick Henry have the season he's having. Here's the real MVP, though, Wig. It's Saquon Barkley.
I knew it was coming. Here we're back to the NFC East. I knew you were going
Saquon Barkley. Listen, first running back to win the MVP award since 2012, Adrian Peterson, the Minnesota Vikings, but it needs to happen. And I'm going to tell you why it needs to happen, because not only are the Philadelphia Eagles a winning team, they're not going to be the number 1 seed in the NFC, but they were competing like the Bills until the very end of it. But listen to this. The Philadelphia Eagles, when Saquon Barkley does not have 100 yards rushing in a game, the Philadelphia Eagles are 3-2. Someone's going to say, that's still a winning record, bro. Okay, I got you. That winning record, though, includes the Cleveland Browns, where the Cleveland Browns sold out to stop Saquon Barkley, held him to 47 yards, and the Eagles won by 4 points to the Cleveland stinking Browns. It also includes a win over the Dallas Cowboys, which was a 34-6 blowout where Saquon Barkley just didn't need to work towards the tail end of that game. That's why he ends up with less than 100 yards rushing. The other 2 games, are the Philadelphia Eagles better than the Atlanta Falcons? Yes. Are the Philadelphia Eagles better than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Absolutely. But guess what? When those 2 teams kept Saquon Barkley from 100 yards rushing, they lost both of those games against subpar teams compared to the Philadelphia Eagles. The only game this team has lost while Saquon Barkley has over 100 yards rushing, Wig, to the Washington Commanders. And I witnessed that game live and in person. I can tell you right now, the reason Saquon Barkley and the Philadelphia Eagles lost that game is because in the second half, the Washington Commanders came out and they did everything they could to stop Saquon Barkley, and the Eagles could not score enough to keep the Commanders from coming back in that game. In the first half, they didn't do anything to stop Saquon Barkley, and the Eagles were dominating that bad boy. Jalen Hurts on the other end, 70% completion rate is about median, right? That's the minimum to say you're a quarterback and had a good game. When the Philadelphia Eagles, when Jalen Hurts is completing over 70% of his passes, the Philadelphia Eagles only have 1 loss. If you keep Jalen Hurts from completing even 70% of his passes, this team is still winning. Jalen Hurts does not matter to Philadelphia Eagles' success. Jalen Hurts can complete 57.9% of his passes against the Baltimore Ravens, and they still win. You know why? Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley is the MVP. If you don't have Saquon Barkley in Philadelphia, you don't have playoff football this season, and Nick Sirianni doesn't have a job. So Saquon is without a doubt the MVP this year.
I love it. And the reason why I love it is because this actually goes into one of those narratives that I always tell people. You can go throughout history and say, Magic ain't that great if he doesn't have Kareem. You know what I'm saying? Jordan ain't that great if he doesn't have Dennis Rodman and Scottie Pippen and Phil Jackson. Kobe ain't that great without Shaq, and we can go down the line and do this. When other great players have other great players in their presence. That's why I think Baltimore actually has to win it in order to shut people up. Because if you don't, the stats won't matter. And the Ravens are a very, very dangerous team going into the playoffs. But I get your point, and you actually make a very valid one. And I'm glad I brought that subject up, but I kind of knew it was going back to the NFC some kind of way. We'll talk about. I know. I'm just messing with you. We're going to talk about quarterback development. That is an NFC East thing because you are watching Jaden Daniels live and in person, even at practice sessions every single day. And the Washington Commanders absolutely hit the jackpot when it comes to that. But so have some other teams. We're going to go through this rookie quarterback class and talk about how, by mistake, these teams have actually showed and given the blueprint on how you're supposed to develop a quarterback. We'll do that in just a second here on Locked On NFL. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by FanDuel. That is right, man. FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if you once you make your first $5 bet and you win with that $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets. Here's what, man, you got to understand something. I cover the Jaguars. They ain't won but 4 games this year. But I won a whole bunch because I bet that they would win or lose, and with the points. And you can do that at FanDuel. You can at least get some joy in your pocket, even if it's not in your heart. All right, man. So it's all about which players will score a touchdown, how many points will each team score, and so much more. Not necessarily about the outcome of the game, but how the game flows. And you can bet on that too. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Moving along here on Locked On NFL with my man David Harrison, the local host for Washington Commanders, but the national host for the Squad Show and also national co-host here every Wednesday on Locked On NFL in the barbershop here with me. We had a spirited David been making me rethink some things. So let me see if he's going to do it again here in segment number 3. Quarterback development 101. What I mean by that is people haven't figured this quarterback thing out pretty much. There's been a lot of guys taking it very high. Trevor Lawrence is here. Of course, a lot of franchises have gone through guys trying to be a franchise quarterback. A lot of franchises, though, now have taken quarterbacks and they have done don't listen to this. This is going to hit you upside your head now because it ain't something you hear all the time. They've actually built their team around the skill set of those players. They've actually taken the pressure off of the quarterback a little bit and just made the quarterback an integral part of the team and a coach and an extension of the coach. They've done this year in Denver, in Washington. Now you see it in Atlanta. Caleb Williams haven't played as bad as people think if you really look at his stats, but the Bears did it the old way where they put everything on the shoulders of a quarterback. These other quarterbacks have been through a situation where, no, we're going to cater things to you. We're going to build things around. We're going to take the pressure off of you in all of these other places where they're going to the playoffs. And I think what this has done is it probably has signaled a turn in how the quarterbacks are going to be groomed moving forward.
I mean, I hope so, because, we hear every coach in the NFL every year talk about putting their players in the best position to be successful. And But, it is a staggering few of them that actually do that. Yeah. And you just hit the nail around the head, man. I mean, Caleb Williams from before the NFL scouting combine, like the Bears couldn't make it officially official, but Caleb Williams was the savior of the Chicago Bears before they ever even drafted him, before they even interviewed him in Indianapolis. He was the savior of the Chicago Bears. It was already happening. But then you look across the rest of the league, and Drake May was not put under the pressure of being a savior in New England. Jaden Daniels was not put in position to be the savior in Washington. Bo Nix, Michael Penix Jr., J.J. McCarthy. All of these quarterbacks are coming in, and all of those teams are saying, just be a rookie quarterback. Just figure out how your game fits in the National Football League. Let's get you coached up. Let's put some people around you. I mean, the Patriots not so much putting people around Drake May right now, but we'll talk about that another time. And I really, again, you like you said, I cover Jaden Daniels on a daily basis, right? Not only did Dan Quinn say in training camp, in the preseason, before he was even announced a starter, that Jaden is not expected to put the cape on. Jaden Daniels is not expected to be the leader in this locker room. All we need him to do is learn how to be an NFL quarterback. Dan Quinn completely removed the captain patch system from his team because who wears a captain's patch? Quarterback. He has to wear a captain's patch. If you have a quarterback that doesn't wear a captain's patch, people look at that quarterback and say, what's wrong with you?
You're our leader,
So
right?
Dan Quinn said, we're going to name captains every single week, and they're going to be different every single week. Nobody's going to be a permanent captain. Take the light off of the quarterback. And not only that, but they also brought in guys like Bobby Wagner. They brought in guys like Zach Ertz. They already had a guy like Terry McLaurin. They brought in a guy like Tyler Biadasz, guys who could be leaders while Jaden Daniels was coming into his own. And guess what? These last couple of weeks, defenses have been selling out to stop Brian Robinson Jr., and Jaden Daniels has been putting that cape on because now he's ready. He's ready to put that cape on, but it's because he grew into it. Bo Nix, same thing. Nobody threw Bo Nix out there as the next John Elway in Denver, and he has done a really good job of coming out there and trying to lead that team. Michael Penix Jr., I think, solid in his first 2 games. We'll see where his future goes. There's not a lot, ability to really evaluate him this season, but I think that the way these franchises handled these young quarterbacks matters. And again, it's the hardest position to transition from college to the NFL. It's the most scrutinized position in the NFL. Yeah. It's the most visible position in the NFL. Right. Why these NFL franchises continue to insist on putting even more pressure on these quarterbacks is beyond me, because it's not the best way to get the best out of these guys. And the last point I'll make is look at the Rams versus the Lions. Jared Goff goes to Detroit, and suddenly he's a catalyst for a team that's an NFC championship contender, Super Bowl contender. Why? Because it's not all on Jared. He goes to Los Angeles, it's all on Jared. And I know they made it to a Super Bowl, and that's great. But all on Jared Goff stifled his development. He gets to Detroit. He's never going to be the greatest quarterback in the league, right? But he's a lot better and a lot more comfortable in his skin because he was not brought to Detroit to be the savior. He was brought to be the quarterback.
You're right, man. And there are a lot of examples. Baker Mayfield is another one. We talked about Sam Darnold earlier. I want you to hear from a Hall of Famer guy, and he wasn't one of those Hall of Fame quarterbacks that came from this great pedigree or this great lineage. Kurt Warner was bagging groceries and ended up a starter. Mm-hmm. This is something that he said early this year to Kyle Krabs about quarterbacks and the development, and I want y'all to hear this.
Yeah, I have said numerous times, we have this cliche that we talk about around NFL circles, and oftentimes it's a negative when we say, oh, he's a system quarterback. I'm a firm believer that everyone or most guys are system quarterbacks. In other words, they have things that they do really, really well. And so you want to cater your system or cater the guys around you to what your quarterback does well. And, that's just, it just makes sense that you're going to do that. You've got some guys that, probably have the ability to extend and play beyond that. But what I'm saying is you develop a system that plays to that quarterback, the way he sees the game, the way he likes to play the game.
You are Locked On Dolphins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Listen, man, you can't put it any plainer and any simpler or more simple, whatever one is the right way to say that, than Kurt just said it. They put so much importance or emphasis on the quarterback position, and then they just throw a dude out there and expect that he's going to be like Superman. And one of the things that I've said all year, and I hope people haven't gotten tired of it, is this: Superman wasn't Superman all day. He was Clark Kent 23 hours of the day. He only put that cape on when he had to. You got to do your job, man. You know what I'm saying? Don't make things so bad that Superman has to be Superman 12 hours a day.
Hey,
that is what you do as an organization.
Here's what I'm going to tell you. Superman was a system superhero because without his ability to fly, without his laser vision, without his freezing cold breath or whatever it's called, without all that stuff around him that helped him, he ain't Superman. Listen,
That's right.
I covered Tom Brady for three years at Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 2 of those years, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers crafted their offense around what Tom Brady does best, and they won a Super Bowl. Probably should have won a Super Bowl the second year. Third year, they turned more to Byron Leftwich and said, what does Byron Leftwich want his offense to look like? They try to make Tom Brady execute Byron Leftwich's offense, and they still made it to the playoffs, but it was not a good experience. One of those dudes is out of the NFL against his will. The other dude is out of the NFL because he decided to go a different direction, but still had teams wanting him to be their starting quarterback when he decided to retire. And then the last part of that, every successful quarterback is a system quarterback. You love Kurt Warner's story. He goes to Arizona, goes to another Super Bowl. They didn't win. I understand that. Who was the coach there? Bruce Arians was his head coach. Yep. Bruce Arians, one of his most beloved quotes ever. It's not the X's and O's. It's the Jimmies and Joes. Yep. When you focus on the men on the field and make the X's and O's fit them, that is when you're going to be the most successful in the NFL. So yeah, Kurt Warner knows that from experience. Bruce Arians, one of the best coaches that I think the NFL has seen in my lifetime, has proven that is the way to go. Mike Tomlin has proven that is the way to go. Jim Harbaugh has proven that is the way to go. I mean, how many other coaches do you need? Is it Jim or John? Whoever the Baltimore Harbaugh is, I always get them confused. That's the way to go, man. And who cares if you're a system quarterback? Who cares if you're a system quarterback? The system helps you win.
I remember something that Malik Jackson told me, retired defensive lineman. He did a radio show with me in Jacksonville. And I asked him, I said, you played a lot of 5 technique in that 3-4. How you going to adjust to playing 3 technique? He said, people pay too much attention to alignment. And I'm not quoting him. I'm just paraphrasing what he said. He said, alignment. He said, Wade Phillips says this. Wade puts you in a position. It does not matter. You know, really, like Aaron Donald. They ran a 3-4 when they won the Super Bowl. Why are you running a 3-4 with Aaron Donald? He's still a 3 technique. Wade Phillips had this quote, and I will say this. He said, if you got good players that don't fit your system, you need to change your system. Yeah. That's it. You got to fit. Is your system so – if there's a good football player, there's no way he should not fit what you do. It doesn't make sense. You have to bend your system around good football players. So I totally agree, and I think it also matters when it comes to the quarterback position. All right, man, I know you got a lot to do today. You're one of the busiest people I know, you and Chris Carter, who I'll have on tomorrow, man, here on Locked On NFL. Make sure y'all tap into Locked On NFL in the morning with Tyler Rowland, because he's going to give it to you like you can't get it nowhere else, man. And then slide through here at the barbershop. Locked On NFL is twice a day. And we use the local experts to bring the opinions and to bring the information that you can't get anywhere else. It's a Locked On Podcast Network. We'll see David next Wednesday again. Until then, you guys take care. We'll see you. Make sure you tap in tomorrow here on Locked On NFL.